Okay, cool. Well, welcome to another Drupal 8 Learning by Trial and Error blog slash video series. This time around, I wanted to take a very simplified look at the new configuration management, also, kind of configuration deployment, if you will. How basically we're getting all these point and click and all these other configurations that we normally do in Drupal that we were using features for, and we would get those all bundled up and put them in code and in files, and then that was the way we were able to deploy these changes without having to try to mess around with the database. Because in Drupal 7, all these configurations are stored in the database. In Drupal 8, that's no longer. Basically what they're doing now in Drupal 8 is they're storing this in files. If you look at a standard out-of-the-box Drupal 8 installation, let's go to Sites, Default, Files. We now have this config underscore with a very large hash. Basically what's going on here is this is where everything that we're doing is going to be stored. If we look in this, we have a directory called active, and now everything from modules and everything else that has a configuration inside Drupal, all those configurations are stored in a .yml or YAML file. And as you start to move around and change configurations to your website, Drupal actually actively writes these files to make sure that your settings are now saved in code. So now all we have to really do is take all these configurations and move them from one Drupal site to the next to make sure that we deploy all of our changes. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of how people are doing this with Git. There's an active directory, a staging directory. It's all still a work in progress, as pretty much a lot of Drupal 8 is. But I just want to show a very simple, very simple way of how this works. So let's go ahead and take a look here. What I've got is two Drupal 8 sites running, one that I've just kind of called dev and one that I've called stage. And what we're going to do is we're going to just do something very basic. Let's just go into our configuration. Let's go into our site information, and let's go ahead and change our site name. Instead of Drupal8.dev, let's call it my cool site. Let's go ahead and save that configuration. Now, as I saved that configuration, Drupal actually wrote that to a specific YAML file. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. I basically have this site in a Git repository just so I can see that changes are being made, and just want to show that to you. As you can see here in my Git tool of choice, that this file has indeed been changed. And if we take a look at it, you can actually see that the name went from Drupal 8 to my cool site. This is pretty cool. You can actually start seeing these changes a lot easier than you could with features. And it happens instantly. I didn't have to go do all of this crazy stuff. It just happened. I mean, this is Drupal 8 is just looking really cool. I'm getting really excited because it's just things like this. Now I could go ahead, and what I could do is actually discard the local changes in Git and then clear the cache, and it would go back to its previous state. What I want to do is I want to actually show how you can import and export, and I'm going to take these changes from that dev to that stage that I have set up. So now what we do is if we go under configuration, scroll down here in the development section, we now have a configuration management tab. Inside this tab, we have sub-tabs basically, and we have synchronize, single import export, full import export. Single import export is really a sensitive area. This was actually brought about because the views team actually wanted to be able to import and export individual views. A lot of people are asking how they can just do certain changes. It's really not recommended because Drupal has so many dependencies, and you may try to import a change that you made that actually had dependencies that were changed, and you forget to import those dependencies, and then things start to get crazy. So I'm actually just going to show a full import export. What this is really going to do is I'm going to export my dev changes. All I have to do is hit export. If you notice now, it just downloaded a file, and what that file does is contain my entire website's configurations in one single file. So then when I go to my staging site, I can go to the exact same location, configuration, configuration management, full import export. Now I'm on the import, and I can choose a file. And now I can just choose that file, upload it. Okay, cool. Now we've imported the file. Now remember, this is Drupal 8 and things are still a work in progress, and I asked around. Obviously I did not make this many changes. I also have my staging and dev sites. One is a clone of the other because I was told that this was going to work better if it's a clone because they're still having some issues when you do have two different fresh installs. You're going to have a lot of differences because obviously there are differences when you install site when it comes to IDs and all those types of things. So right now I am seeing all of these when I did a clone. I'm not too sure, but let's just show you what's going on here if we only had the one change that we made. If you notice, we can look at the differences. So we are going from Drupal8.stage to my cool site. So it's definitely seeing the differences there in the configuration files, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and try to import this and see if it works. If not, we're learning by trial and error. Okay, well, I guess it sort of worked. We have our new site name, but it looks like we are getting a symphony error of some kind. So I'm going to just contribute this to it's Drupal 8. We're learning. But you kind of saw what we did. I still think this is really cool, and I think when it's working in its fullness, it's going to save so much time now that all of this stuff is stored in files instead of the database. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's a learning experience. I can't wait to see this stuff improve.